Hi, I haven't recorded a video in quite some time, but I'm gonna give it a go. Um, Today I've been thinking a lot about 9/11 on its 22nd anniversary and what happened, where I was, how I was feeling, and I want to share that with you. I think it's important that we share our stories with the people um, for history purposes. I was a simple English teacher, first year teacher. Um, I was about a month into it, and I was teaching King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table to a bunch of ninth graders who could have probably cared less. And our assistant principal came over the intercom and told us that the tower had been attacked, that America was under attack, and instructed us to turn the TVs on in our room, which we did. I turned the TV on in my room, and we sat there mesmerized, unwilling to move, as we watched the first tower fall, the second plane hit the second building, not necessarily in that order, but all the horrific scenes of that day. People jumping from the building, the fire, the reports of Flight 93 going down in the field, the reports of the plane hitting the Pentagon. It was a chaotic day. And at the same time, it was an ordinary day. We went about our ordinary day, changing classes. Now, the talk of the day, of course, the curriculum that I had planned was nowhere to be taught. But the everyday plan was being followed through with. Classes were being changed and lunch was being done. But the talk of the day was the attack on America. And I remember each time as I looked out into the faces of my students, most of whom, especially after that initial moment, mostly what I got was confused. A lot of them looked confused because we spent several days talking about it, just as the world did. And they were confused because they didn't understand how America could be attacked. And quite frankly, neither did I. So we kind of worked through our disbelief together. And as I watched their faces, I remember thinking that they had a different world to grow up in than I ever did.
Thinks that Lincoln is not going to be good for African Americans. Uh, but when Lincoln does win,
That it
don't
was going to
don't
be more
disappoint him
dangerous.
because in Lincoln's first inaugural address, he's very
And
conciliatory to the South. And Douglas wanted him to say something
that day
very
swiped away
positive
their
about what he's going to do
innocence, in a
about slavery.
sense.
Lincoln is not there yet. He's not willing to do that. In fact, he
And I
even
found that
says
sad.
that he's willing to support all of the domestic institutions of the South. That includes the Fugitive Slave Act. And Douglas and other African Americans and abolitionists in general are livid about that. As Lincoln continues to delay doing it about slavery,
I had 2 kids of my own at that time, and the only thing that I wanted to do was to run and hug my kids and hold them tight. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't leave until the school day was over because they were in school too. But the only thing I wanted to do was to put my arms around them and hold them.
Does Douglas start warming up to him? Douglas knows by the time of the actual
we had several
issued on January 1st,
discussions in class about loved ones. Some of the members in my class were military kids, and they knew that an action like this would mean war, and that their family would be away from them, and that scared them. We talked about the morality of the people who jumped out of the building, because that weighed heavily on them too. I lived in a deeply religious community because it was in the South, and they were worried about the morality and the souls of the people who jumped out of the building. And I told them that they were choosing between 2 different horrors, that it wasn't that they were trying to kill themselves, that they knew that they were going to die one way or the other, and they just picked one. They picked the lesser of the 2 evils. And that did seem to settle their minds some. I know I'm ranting and just going off on tangents. That was pretty much what the day was like. It was chaotic. And 22 years later, I still get chills when I think about it. I don't see the unity, the moment of unity that we had as a country is long gone. And I doubt that we ever get that back. Even in an attack, I don't think that we would have it. And that's sad.
Goes to the White House for the inaugural reception, and he's not allowed in because he's a black man. And Lincoln finds out that he's at the door.
I just want to take a moment of silence to remember those that were lost, those that were brave enough to go running into the buildings when everyone else was running out. Those people at the Pentagon who lost their lives, those young men who downed that plane that could have very well taken out another part of our U.S. government. So if you don't mind a moment of silence.